There is a silence within you that does not ask for approval, a stillness that is not swayed by external voices or shifting opinions, a clarity that emerges only when you stop running from yourself and begin to sit quietly in your own presence. And in that space of presence, Zen invites you to meet the one guide you have ignored for too long, your own inner knowing. In a world constantly selling answers, Zen asks you to trust that you already hold them. It is not about rejecting teachers, but about realizing that the truest teacher lives within. No scripture can give you what your own awareness reveals. No guru can walk your path for you. Self-reliance is not ego. It is humility in its purest form. The humility to sit with your own uncertainty without rushing to escape it. The courage to face your own suffering without outsourcing your responsibility for healing. And the wisdom to know that your truth cannot be second-hand. In the Zen tradition, even the Buddha is not worshipped as an idol, but as a mirror. The teachings are fingers pointing to the moon, but the moon is yours to see directly. You are not here to mimic anyone else's awakening. You are here to live your own. And this begins not with grand declarations, but with simple acts of turning inward. Instead of asking what others think you should do, you pause. Instead of chasing validation, you breathe. Instead of doubting your instincts, you listen. Over time, this quiet listening becomes your compass. You begin to realize that the answers you sought, from books, mentors, systems, were always pointing you back to yourself. True self-reliance is not hard or cold. It is soft, steady, grounded. It is not about never needing help, but about discerning which voices nourish your truth and which distract from it. It is about bowing to your own path, even when it leads through uncertainty. It is about walking with presence, not performance. There is no map for your unique awakening, and Zen reminds us that this is a gift, not a problem. The unmarked path is the only real path. Self-reliance does not mean isolation. It means intimacy with your experience, commitment to your values, responsibility for your choices. It is the radical act of honoring your life as it is. When you rely on your own insight, you begin to stop blaming others for your suffering. You stop waiting for permission to be yourself. You stop asking the world to give you something that can only arise from within. Peace, clarity, freedom. The mind trained in Zen begins to see that the outer world is unstable, full of change, contradiction, confusion, and thus cannot be the source of lasting security. That security must be cultivated within, not by armoring yourself, but by softening into what is real. Self-reliance is trust. Trust not in your thoughts, but in the awareness beneath them. Trust not in perfection, but in a presence. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to stay open. The more you lean into this openness, the less you are thrown by the noise of others. You begin to find peace not in what they say, but in what you feel, to be right in your own body, heart, and breath. Zen is not about becoming someone else. It is about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And that remembering happens quietly, in moments of silence, in pauses between thoughts, in breaths taken consciously, in decisions made with care rather than fear. You begin to see that your own wisdom has been whispering all along, under the doubt, under the noise, under the pressure to conform. You begin to trust that whisper. And from that trust, your life begins to align not with what's expected, but with what's real. This is liberation, not a dramatic escape, but a gentle homecoming. The realization that you can stand on your own ground, speak with your own voice, walk your own walk. You are no longer a follower of forms, but a friend to your own heart. You are no longer seeking a system to save you, but cultivating stillness that sustains you. You are no longer a seeker looking for truth outside. You are a finder, resting in the truth that is already here. This is what Zen teaches through every koan, every sitting, every silence. Trust yourself, not the small self of ego, but the vast self of awareness. That self is not limited, not lacking, not broken. It does not need fixing and only remembering. When you remember that, you begin to live not in reaction, but in response. Not in fear, but in freedom. Not in someone else's story, but in your own unfolding presence. And you come to know, not as a belief, but as a felt truth, that you are the path and the walker, the question and the answer, the student and the teacher, all at once. And so we continue, deepening our reflection on what it truly means to walk the Zen path of self-reliance, not as an act of defiance, but as a return to the inner sanctuary of truth that has always lived within you. Zen does not hand you a map and tell you where to go. It points inward and asks, what is already here? In a world that is often loud with opinions, instructions, and borrowed truths, the Zen tradition whispers, come home to yourself. The Buddha taught not to blindly follow even his own words, but to test them, to live them, to feel them in the marrow of your own life. This is not the way of dependence. This is the way of direct experience. True understanding arises not from memorizing teachings, but from digesting them fully, walking through fire with them, letting them dissolve falsehood and awaken clarity. When you stop looking for someone else to save you or give you the answers, you begin to hear the subtle wisdom within. The Zen way is not about collecting beliefs or performing rituals for approval. It is about stripping away everything that is not real until only your essence remains. In that space, self-reliance is not isolation. It is freedom. It is trust in the unfolding of your own nature, unforced and complete. You begin to realize that the path does not start somewhere out there. It begins exactly where your feet are now. You do not need permission to awaken. You only need to stop abandoning yourself in the search for someone else to do it for you. This practice is not about building a better version of yourself according to someone else's model. It is about meeting what is here without judgment. Self-reliance in Zen means to sit with your confusion instead of rushing to escape it, to hold space for your pain instead of outsourcing it to someone who promises quick relief, to listen inward when the world tells you to scroll outward. No guru, no system, no mantra will ever replace the quiet authority of your own clear seeing. And the paradox is this: when you stop clinging to others to guide your every step, you may discover the quiet support of the entire universe arising to meet you. Birds do not ask for directions to the sky. They fly. Flowers do not look up instructions for how to bloom. They unfold. So too is your nature, capable, wise, whole. But we have forgotten how to trust it. We have learned to doubt our intuition, to measure our worth in comparisons, to look outward for a truth that has never left our breath, our bones, our being. Self-reliance does not mean we never accept help. It means we do not abandon ourselves. We recognize the difference between guidance and dependency, between connection and self-erasure. The moment you sit still and ask, what is real here? You are practicing Zen. The moment you breathe and feel the truth of your experience without needing anyone to validate it, you are home. And from that home, all paths open. It is not the job of the mountain to explain how to climb it. Your steps will reveal the way. Each step rooted in your own sincerity. Each moment an invitation to trust the living presence that animates your heart. This is not a journey of perfection. It is a return to simplicity, to feel your own breath, to listen deeply, to live without seeking outside for what has always been within. You aren't missing anything. You do not need to become someone else to be whole. The Zen path offers no promises of ease, only the possibility of peace through presence. To be present with your life without needing to fix or filter it, that is strength. That is freedom. And so you walk, not to arrive, but to remember. You walk through shadow and light with equal reverence. You learn to bow not just to joy, but also to uncertainty. You stop trying to fit into roles or doctrines that do not honor your soul. You learn to honor your experience as sacred, unrepeatable, real. In this way, every breath becomes a teaching, every pause, a teacher. You are not here to obey. You are here to awaken. And awakening is not a borrowed light. It is the fire already within you, waiting for you to trust it. So trust it. Let each moment be your scripture. Let each insight rise from your own stillness. Walk your path, not in rebellion, but in quiet courage. This is the essence of self-reliance, not to walk alone, but to walk honestly. And in that honesty, in that return to inner authority, you will find a peace no outer teaching can give, and no outer voice can take away. Because the teacher you seek has always been you, and still, the practice deepens, not with more effort, but with more trust. Trust that the simplest presence holds the greatest power. You realize that every time you reach outward for someone to tell you what to do, who to be, how to live, you may be avoiding the sacred invitation to become intimate with your own experience. Zen invites you to turn toward yourself, not to isolate, but to integrate, to gather the scattered pieces of your being and sit with them like old friends. This is the art of self-reliance, not as rugged independence, but as gentle responsibility, as the discipline to stay when every conditioned impulse tells you to escape. In that staying, a clarity arises. You begin to see that your suffering often comes not from the situation, but from your refusal to fully meet it. You begin to notice the ways you abandon your truth to avoid discomfort, the ways you numb out instead of breathe in. And slowly, this noticing becomes a path not marked by milestones or applause, but by the quiet strength that grows in you each time you choose presence over distraction, honesty over approval, truth over conformity. Zen does not care if you impress anyone. It asks only that you return to this moment, to this breath, to this life. And when you do, you touch the source of all answers, all wisdom, all peace, not because someone gave it to you, but because you allowed yourself to stop running. That is the true courage, not to conquer the world, but to no longer flee your own heart. You begin to feel that your path is not a project to fix, but a mystery to explore. You stop needing to prove yourself, and instead begin to live yourself, breathe yourself, be yourself. Self-reliance is the doorway to freedom, not the brittle freedom of isolation, but the deep freedom of inner sovereignty, where you are no longer a prisoner to fear, comparison, or external validation. You recognize that you can honor others without losing yourself, receive teachings without outsourcing your wisdom, walk with companions without depending on them to carry your soul. This is the paradox of Zen. When you stop seeking, you begin to see. When you stop clinging, you begin to receive. And in the silence of your own awareness, you rediscover a teacher that cannot be found in books or monasteries, the teacher that is your own direct knowing. So walk softly, listen deeply, trust that the answers will come, not when you force them, but when you are quiet enough to hear them. The clouds may obscure the moon, but the moon has never left the sky. In the same way, your truth has never left you. It waits beneath the noise, beneath the striving, beneath the roles you've been taught to play. Each time you return to the breath, you return to yourself. Each time you stop and ask what is real right now, you pierce the illusion. Zen is not an escape from life. It is a full-hearted embrace of it. And in that embrace, you realize there is nothing lacking, nothing missing, nothing broken. Even in your confusion, even in your fear, you are whole. You do not need to become enlightened. You need only to become honest. And in that honesty, the way reveals itself, one step at a time. No guru, no scripture, no philosophy can substitute for the fierce clarity of your own lived experience. That is the power of self-reliance, not arrogance, but authenticity, not detachment, but a deeper connection to life, as it truly is. So trust the process, trust that you are enough, that your path is enough, that your questions are sacred, even when they have no immediate answer. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are exactly where you need to be to wake up. All that is required is your willingness to stop searching outside and begin to feel what is already moving within. And in that moment, as you sit with no agenda, no pretense, no need to perform, you begin to taste a freedom that cannot be given, only realized. This is the way of Zen. Quiet, subtle, transformative. And as you continue to walk this path of self-reliance, you find that you are never truly alone, because in trusting yourself, you align with the rhythm of the entire universe. You return to the place you never left. You become the silence that listens, the space that holds, the presence that heals, not by doing anything, but by simply being who you are. And so you walk on, no longer chasing milestones or applause, but simply listening to the quiet instructions whispered from within, the subtle nudges of intuition that ask for your trust, not your proof. In this space of inner listening, you find that the teachings of Zen are not separate from you. They arise from you, like waves from the sea. You begin to see that the deepest truths are not always spoken aloud, but are lived in the silence between words, in the pause between breaths. Every choice to return to presence becomes a vow to yourself. I will not abandon who I am for who I think I must be. In a world that teaches dependence on validation, on possessions, on systems of status, Zen calls you to remember your original face, the one before labels, before fear, before striving. That face is not a mask. It is the essence of your being, calm and complete, requiring no justification. In returning to this essence, you rediscover your birthright, the ability to meet life with clarity, with calm, with the unshakable groundedness of one who knows they belong, not because of what they do, but because of what they are. The more you turn inward, not to analyze or criticize, but to sit quietly and feel, the more you awaken to this truth, that your life, as it is, holds everything needed for peace. It is not elsewhere. It is here. And when you stop grasping, you begin receiving, not from others, but from the deep wellspring of wisdom that has lived inside you all along. This is the radical gift of self-reliance. It places the power of transformation back into your own hands. It reminds you that you are not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be honored. The challenges you face are not signs of failure, but invitations into deeper truth. Even confusion becomes a sacred teacher when you approach it with patience instead of panic. The moments when you don't know what to do are not weaknesses, they are opportunities to build trust, to sit still, and allow life to show you the next step. Slowly, the panic begins to fade. In its place, Calm arises not because everything outside has changed, but because something inside has. You have stopped abandoning yourself. You have stopped searching for someone else to carry your wisdom. You have begun to walk the path not laid out for you, but revealed one step at a time through your own attention. In Zen, this is awakening, not a lightning strike, but a gradual softening into what already is. And as you walk further, you see that self-reliance is not about closing yourself off. It's about opening yourself up without losing your center. You begin to show up for life without needing it to be any particular way. You allow others to be who they are without taking responsibility for their path. And in that allowing, something extraordinary happens. You become free. Free to feel without being overwhelmed. Free to act without attachment. Free to love without losing yourself. This is the way of Zen, not the eradication of emotion or experience, but the full acceptance of it. Self-reliance teaches you to bow, not just in temples, but in traffic, in heartbreak, in the slow unfolding of daily life. Each time you return to your breath, each time you listen instead of react, you are practicing. Each small choice becomes an expression of your growing trust in yourself and in life. You realize that peace is not something you wait for. It is something you return to, again and again, in the most ordinary of moments. The sun through your window, the sound of rain on your roof, the taste of tea held gently in your hands. These are not interruptions. They are reminders. The path of self-reliance is not dramatic. It is steady, quiet, clear. You no longer seek answers in the noise of the world, but in the stillness of your own being. And in that stillness, you find what you were never missing, yourself. And as you continue walking this inner path, you begin to understand that self-reliance in Zen is not the same as isolation. It is not the pushing away of others, but the welcoming of your own presence first, so that all relationships become clearer, more genuine. When you rely on your own groundedness, you no longer lean on others to define you. You stop grasping at people to soothe your insecurities or mirror your worth. You begin relating from fullness, not lack, from inner peace, not inner hunger. Zen teaches that true connection arises not from dependence, but from interdependence, a knowing that each being is whole, and in their wholeness, able to walk beside others with grace. When your roots are deep, you are not shaken by the storms of the world. You become like the bamboo, able to bend without breaking, because your strength lies in your flexibility, your awareness, your stillness within motion. And that strength deepens each time you turn inward and ask, what is true right now? What am I feeling without story, without judgment? Can I sit with this, not to fix it, but to be with it? These questions become your companions, your Dharma bells, reminding you that you don't need to escape the moment, to survive it. You just need to be present. The breath leads you. The body grounds you. Awareness guides you. Even in discomfort, there is a kind of freedom, a softening into what is, rather than a fighting against it. Self-reliance is not harsh or stoic. It is gentle. It says, I am here with myself, and that is enough. Even when the mind races or the heart aches, there is a part of you that remains untouched, like the still surface beneath the waves. Zen calls this your original mind. It cannot be stained. It cannot be lost. When you remember this, fear begins to dissolve, not because life becomes easier, but because you stop abandoning yourself when life gets hard. You no longer flee from discomfort or grasp at fleeting pleasures. You allow what is, and in doing so, you are no longer ruled by it. This is the heart of Zen self-reliance, a calm, unwavering presence that does not seek to dominate life, but to meet it fully as it is. No need to wait for the perfect moment or for permission from the world. You simply return to yourself again and again, like waves returning to the shore. And slowly you become that shore, steady, present, unmoved by the tides of comparison, judgment, or doubt. In this stillness, you begin to hear your true voice, not the voice shaped by fear or expectation, but the quiet voice of knowing that has always whispered beneath the noise. You are already whole. You already know. You are already home. You were never meant to follow someone else's path entirely. You were meant to gather the teachings that resonate, and then walk your own way with clarity. Zen encourages you to question even your teachers, not from arrogance, but from deep respect for your own inner wisdom. The Buddha himself said, "Be a light unto yourself." That light is not pride, it is presence. It is the ability to sit with the unknown and trust that the answers will come not through striving, but through quiet attention. The path is not paved in certainty. It is lit step by your willingness to remain awake, to remain honest, to remain rooted in this moment. Even when you fall, even when you forget, you are not lost. You simply begin again. This is the way of Zen, not perfection, but return. Again and again. Return. Return to breath. Return to now. Return to the quiet courage of being with yourself fully, even in chaos. You begin to trust the pauses between decisions, the silence between thoughts, the space between what was and what will be. That space, that stillness, is your teacher. It asks nothing of you but your attention. And when you give it your attention, it gives you everything: insight, clarity, peace. You are no longer afraid to be alone, because in solitude, you meet your truest self. Not the mask, not the role, but the vast and timeless awareness that watches it all unfold. This is where your answers live, not in books or gurus or systems, but in the quiet unfolding of your own lived experience. You stop performing for the world and start listening to the rhythm of your own truth. And that rhythm may be slow. It may not match the urgency of the world, but it is yours, and it is wise. In honoring it, you create a life not of noise, but of meaning. You begin to see that every act of self-trust is a liberation. Every moment you pause and ask what feels true is a step toward freedom. You no longer ask, "What should I do?" but instead, "What is needed now?" You move from reaction to response, from fear to understanding, from confusion to clarity. Not all at once, but slowly, gently, like the petals of a flower opening in the morning sun. And in that slow opening, you remember, you do not have to become more. You only have to remember what you already are. This is the essence of self-reliance in Zen. Not self-centeredness, but self-remembering. A returning to the truth that has always been waiting patiently beneath the surface. You are enough, you are wise, and the path is already unfolding beneath your feet. And as you keep walking this path, the weight of expectation begins to dissolve, not because the world changes, but because your relationship to it softens. You no longer need to carry the burden of becoming someone you are not. Zen whispers that your job is not to transform into some perfect ideal, but to gently strip away what is not yours, what was given to you by fear, by conditioning, by a world that forgot stillness. You are not here to impress, to outperform, to accumulate validation. You are here to awaken, to remember, to live from the simple, grounded truth of your being. Zen is not interested in elaborate doctrines or endless theories. It asks one question, and one question only. Are you present? Not tomorrow, Not someday. Now. Can you be with yourself now? Can you meet life as it is, without needing it to be different for you to feel whole? Self-reliance, then, is not about being alone. It's about no longer abandoning yourself. It's about sitting in silence and hearing the noise of your own mind without running away. It's about noticing how often you look outside yourself for answers and gently, patiently turning inward instead. In every moment, you are given a choice. React from the old habits or respond from your truth. And the more you return to yourself, the more familiar that truth becomes. It speaks in the language of the body, in the rhythm of the breath, in the stillness behind thought. It does not scream. It does not plead. It simply waits for you to listen. And when you finally do, something profound begins to shift. You begin to see that peace was never something to be found. It was something to be remembered. In the Zen way, self-reliance is an invitation to trust the unfolding of your own journey, to not rush healing, to not force clarity, to not demand certainty, but to sit in the quiet center of your being and let insight arise on its own, like mist rising off a morning lake. The more you trust yourself, the less you need others to confirm who you are. You stop living for applause and start living in alignment. You no longer fear the silence because it has become your teacher. And in that silence, you realize there is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing missing. Even your struggles, your doubts, your fears, they are not signs of failure. They are doorways. They are teachers too. Zen asks you not to get rid of these parts of yourself, but to welcome them with compassionate awareness. Come in, you say. I see you. That too is self-reliance, not in resisting what arises, but in accepting it without collapse. You begin to move through the world with a quiet strength, not the strength of control, but of surrender, not the strength of knowing all the answers, but of being willing to stay with the questions. This is the strength Zen speaks of, not dominance, but intimacy with the truth of this moment. You understand that the truest authority is not out there. It is in the clarity that comes when you meet yourself fully. It is in the still gaze that sees suffering and does not look away. And in doing so, you become your own refuge. You become a safe place for all the parts of you that were once pushed away. You become the space where healing begins, not by force, but by presence, each breath a returning, each step a deepening. You realize that you do not need a map, only trust in your own footsteps. Zen teaches that the path is made by walking, and so you walk, not to arrive, but to be here, right here, where the wind touches your skin, where the heart beats softly in your chest, where the world is no longer something to conquer, but something to receive. And in this receiving, there is rest, there is peace, there is a sense that nothing is broken, not even you. The more you lean into this truth, the lighter you feel. The more you see that all the wisdom you sought outside has been quietly waiting within. Self-reliance is the art of remembering this again and again, not with arrogance, but with humility, not with fear, but with gentleness. You become a student of your own life. You bow to your own experience. You treat your struggles not as shameful detours, but as sacred instructions. And slowly life becomes less about achievement and more about embodiment, less about doing and more about being. You begin to trust your timing. You begin to respect your limits. You begin to see rest, not as laziness, but as wisdom. Because when you are rooted in yourself, even your rest is an offering. Even your stillness becomes medicine. And the world feels it. This groundedness, this authenticity, this calm presence, that doesn't need to prove anything. It radiates. It soothes. It teaches without words. This is the way of Zen. Not a straight line, but a spiral. Not a ladder upward, but a deepening inward. And with every inward step, you find more peace, more spaciousness, more freedom from the need to become someone else. You no longer rush to fix what's uncomfortable. You stay, you breathe, you listen. And in that listening, you hear the soft truth that was always there. You are enough. You are already enough. And now that you know this, not just as an idea, but as a lived reality, you are free. Free to walk your own path. Free to honor your own pace. Free to live a life that is truly yours, moment by moment, breath by breath. If this message resonates, subscribe for daily Zen reflections and guided wisdom to help you reconnect, reflect, and become fully yourself. Until then, remember, no one saves us but ourselves. No one can, and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path.